Mansu is an engineer who has dedicated his life to the solar paper company for over 20 years. The company was acquired by the Americans, who did not have the same traditional values as the Koreans. They intended to automate all tasks and lay off employees. Because of this, Mansu was very worried because he didn't know how to do anything else. Besides, he had a family to support and his expenses weren't cheap. But unfortunately, Mansu and many other employees were laid off. After 13 long months, he was barely surviving with part-time jobs and the little savings he had. Suddenly, the new manager of the paper company calls him and tells him that a position for a new supervisor has opened up. Mansu doesn't hesitate for a second and quits his part-time job, but unfortunately for him, during the interview, he was very nervous, and the worst part is that there were other candidates more qualified than him. On the other hand, things at home were very tough. They didn't have money to buy meat anymore. Mansu couldn't even afford a dentist. The debts were piling up, and the head of the family couldn't find a full-time job. That's why his wife decided to go back to work. She also tells him that she can't maintain such a big house anymore, so she wants to sell it and move to an apartment. But Mansu doesn't want to do it because it was the house he had always wanted. Still, they didn't have any other options. The worst part would be for the children, since the next day they sent their dogs to their grandparents because pets aren't allowed in apartments. Immediately after, the people interested in their house arrive, seeing that everything he had built was falling apart. Mansu decides to humble himself and goes to the paper factory to beg for a job, but the manager tells him they've already hired someone. Suddenly, Supervisor Mansu arrives. He felt very ashamed, so he covered his face so he wouldn't be seen. But in the end, the man feels sorry for him and gives him some money so he can go have a drink. While he's drinking juice, he calls his wife, who doesn't understand how he can go to a bar when they have no money. Later, they had more and more expenses. His daughter's cello teacher tells them that the girl has a lot of talent and that her knowledge is already beyond her level. That's why she suggests sending her to a better teacher who, of course, charges much more. At night, Mansu looks enviously at the man who, according to him, took his job. His wife tells him that he's better and that she wishes lightning would strike the man so the position would open up. This gives Mansu an idea. That's why the next day he follows the new supervisor. And when he has him right beneath his feet, he wants to drop a flower pot on him to end his life and get the job he desperately needs. But a lady stops him and tells him that if he throws her flower pot, she has more that she'll put in its place. In other words, even if he gets rid of him, there were still other options to clear up his doubts. He places an ad in a magazine just for paper lovers. That's how we meet Mr. Lee, who was in the same or even worse situation than Mansu. He had also been fired, and since he didn't know how to do anything else, he turned to alcohol. But when he saw there was a job opening, he decided to change his life and sent in his resume. Many people in the city sent in their resumes. Mansu analyzed each and every one of them, and that way he eliminated many. In the end, there were only 2 candidates above him. So, to secure the job, he had to get rid of the competition. The next day, he starts stalking his prey, but he discovers that there were many surveillance cameras, although there was a blind spot where his wife's lover would come and go. After observing him for days, Mr. Lee takes a walk with his wife. Although married, their relationship wasn't strong. She was always complaining and wanting him to be more affectionate, like when they were young. He won her over with his confidence and some passionate kisses. But Mr. Lee wasn't like that anymore. All he could think about was finding a job again. That's why he thinks that instead of sending him an email, the factory owners sent him a regular letter on paper. So he runs back home, leaving his wife alone in the mountains. She walks while reading a script, but suddenly a snake bites her. Did Mansu's wife know first aid, or at least that's what she said? So she asks her to lift her leg and let her suck out the venom while she sucks on her leg. Mansu's wife calls him after hearing the strange noises, asks what's going on, and Mansu answers that his neighbor is sucking out the venom and then hangs up on her. When he gets home, he realizes that the lady did the exact opposite of what she should have done. And if it had been a venomous snake, he would already be dead. Then he tries to get romantic with his wife, but she starts telling him to give up on the paper factory and look for a job somewhere else. Mansu replies that he doesn't know how to do anything else, and that paper has fed him for 25 years, so he can't abandon it. Days later, Mansu goes to the man's house to kill him, but finds his wife with another man. That's why he decides to leave, but on the way, he runs into the man returning home early. He calls him from a fake number to stop him from entering and finding his wife with another man, saying he has an interview. Immediately, Mr. Lee listens to him, but before leaving, he goes into his house to change. When he finds his wife with another man, he gets very angry and disappointed, then calls his friend and decides to start drinking again. After many years, Mansu forgot to pick up his wife. When he notices the younger dentist he works with, he suspects he's experiencing what happened to Mr. Lee's wife. That's why, when he gets home, he tells her that he doesn't like her being so friendly with him. A few days later, Mansu returns to Mr. Lee's house to complete his mission and finish him off. But Mr. Lee had fallen into a deep depression. Without a job and without his wife, he no longer knew what to do with his life. Seeing him like this, Mansu can't help but relate. For his part, he thought that Mansu was his wife's lover, that he came to kill him because he wanted to be with her. But his wife was watching everything. That's why he tries to stop him. When he hears her voice, Mansu gets nervous and fires the gun. The lady, angry, attacks him and the three start fighting. No one knew who was attacking whom. In the end, the lady is the one who takes the gun. Mansu, scared, runs away, and suddenly a gunshot is heard. The lady had shot his wife. He begs her not to kill him, but she tells him she's fed up, since after being fired, he was never able to recover. Before he finishes, Mr. Lee dies. Terrified, Mansu runs out and the lady follows him. In the end, Mansu is faster and manages to reach his car. But because of all this, he forgot that he had a very important event with his wife. He runs home. Meanwhile, his wife waits to dance with him after much practice, but the young dentist, seeing her alone, invites her to dance. When Mansu arrives, it was already too late. His wife was on the dance floor. With someone else, he tries to impress her with his forbidden dance moves. But seeing her smile so much, he runs away. He goes to Mr. Seo's house to see how things turned out. It turns out that Mrs. Seo called her lover, and together they buried the body. Mansu took advantage of the situation to grab his weapon. At home, he waited for his wife's return. He asked her if she cheated on him with the young dentist. She tells him no, but Mansu doesn't believe her, so he wants to check her underwear. His wife thinks he's drunk, since he only acts that way when he drinks, but he tells her he's drunk with jealousy. His wife gets tired of arguing and shows him her underwear. Mansu smells it and says there doesn't seem to be anything strange. She tells him it's not what he thinks. She's not that kind of woman, and she's never given him a reason to doubt her. Mansu tells her that she did give him a reason because she's very pretty. She replies that he's also handsome, and that's why she also thinks he's cheating on her. She also discovered he wasn't job hunting as he claimed. Instead, he had women's clothes in his car and drove frequently. Mansu doesn't know how to explain what he's doing, so he simply tells her that he's fighting a battle to secure his future and his family's future. The next day, he studies his next target, Senior Park, a shoe store salesman. Suddenly, Park's daughter arrives. Seeing that he was a good father and fought to get ahead, does he also feel identified with him? However, Mansu's desperation was greater. That's why he tells him he'll come back at 8 p.m. Senior Park tells him he gets off at 7, but that he can wait for him just to sell some shoes. Is that how he waits for him? At the seashore, where there are no cameras or witnesses, he pretends that his car isn't working so that Senior Park will help him. After helping him, Mansu shoots him, takes the camera, but leaves his car abandoned and a bullet casing behind. At the same time, his son and his best friend had robbed a cell phone store. The next day, the police visit his house. Thinking he's been found out, Mansu immediately turns himself in. But they are actually there for his son. Apparently, it was his idea. Mansu, in order to help his son, goes to the police station with the body of his victim in the trunk. When he arrives, he tells his son to be honest and blame his friend. But his son says it was his own idea to protect him. His mother removes her bra while Mansu practices his tough guy look. His wife uses her charms to flirt with the store owner and try to stop him from reporting their son, but he ignores her. In the end, Mansu arrives and tells him that if he reports his son, he will report him too. But to his wife, and he'll tell her that he's been cheating on her. With many women, that's how they reach an agreement. Then they go to bury the phones that his son had stolen. After sorting things out, Mansu returns the cigarettes to his son and tells him not to smoke at night. His son clearly ignores him and smokes on the roof. He sees his father trying to cut up a body, but the dirty glass made it hard to see clearly. Mansu couldn't cut up his victim, so he ties him up like a pig. When he's done, he buries him under a tree he just planted. A few days later, the police go to question him about the disappearance of the two men. Mansu was very nervous, so he answers that he doesn't know anything about their deaths. The police tell him that they never mentioned that they might be dead. So Mansu tries to lie so they won't suspect him. The police tell him that they found some clues, including a bullet casing from a North Korean collectible weapon. When she hears this, his wife is scared because it was her husband's decorative weapon. The victims already knew each other. They had even called each other on the phone, which made them suspects. That's why they ask Mansu to be careful until the case is closed. That night, Mansu makes his final move. He goes to the nearby town to drink with the supervisor and plans to finish him off when possible. But then, Copa arrives. The supervisor starts to complain, saying that his job is too much for one person. So Mansu tells him to hire him. That way he would avoid killing him. But the supervisor tells him that it's not up to him, but to his stingy bosses, who aren't willing to spend more money. Upon hearing this, Mansu has no choice but to go ahead with his plan. But the supervisor was tough. No matter how much he drank, he never passed out. In the end, since Mansu was sober, he made him drink. He had quit drinking, but since his future depended on this, he had no other choice. After the first drink, there was no turning back. Now he was more determined than ever to change his life. That's why, without hesitation, he pulls out the tooth that hurt him so much. Seeing this, the supervisor tells him it's great and that they should drink until they can't anymore. At the same time, Mansu's son tells his mother that he saw him cut a very strange pig. Because of everything that happened, his wife starts to get suspicious, so she decides to dig where he had planted the apple tree. After removing the soil, she discovers the truth that what he had cut was not a pig, but a person. Because of this, she calls out to Mansu. He was burying the supervisor, so he was busy. His wife tells him that they are a married couple and shouldn't keep secrets from each other. Mansu tells her not to worry because everything will be over soon. Then he feeds the supervisor to make it look like he had died from drowning. His wife reassures their son not to worry, that his father actually butchered a pig and buried it in their garden, which was a kind of tradition to fertilize the soil. At dawn, Mansu finishes everything and returns home, where his wife greets him anxiously. He reassures her that it's all over now. His job interview is finally over and he's sure it went well. Rephrase and condense sentences for clarity. Keep original meaning and character names. Remove unnecessary words and phrases. Maintain grammatical correctness. Ensure at least 14% reduction in length. She tells him he shouldn't have tried so hard, but Mansu says it doesn't matter now. Later, Mansu grows a beard and becomes a new man. The paper company urgently needed a new supervisor. And with no competition, Mansu was the most qualified. There was just one small detail. The company was now fully automated, so they needed very few employees. Mansu didn't think this was right. But since he wanted to be employed again, he told them he didn't mind, as long as he could provide for his family. When he returned home, the police were waiting for him. They told him that they had finally found solid leads. Apparently, a few years ago, two very large paper companies bid on a contract to make the paper for the banknotes. The managers at that time were the two men that Mansu had eliminated, which made them suspects. Also, Mr. Lee's wife gives a performance and tells everything in great detail. How her husband was never the same after meeting that man. How he was plunged into a depression. The woman tells them that he ran away with his weapon, and she doesn't know what could have happened to him. Because of this, the police think that Mr. Lee got rid of Mr. Park due to personal problems. Mansu was cleared as a suspect. Later, he started his first day at work. Mansu wanted to eat pork to celebrate such an important day, but he couldn't. His wife tells him that it's better to eat fish when she leaves. He was unsure about staying after what happened, but hearing his daughter play the cello revealed her true talent. Was she too good for someone her age? I mean, in the end, all his efforts were worth something. In the final scene, we see Mansu working alone in a completely automated company. Hundreds of people had to lose their jobs so that he could keep his. Months later, his family seemed to have forgotten what happened. Even his wife, who knew everything, seemed to be more affectionate. In the end, a desperate man is capable of doing anything to give the best to his family. Thank you very much for watching the video until the end. Let me know in the comments what you thought about this movie. Supposedly it won many awards, although honestly, I think the plot is very simple, but, well, I'm not a movie expert. Don't forget to give me a like and subscribe to the channel. See you next story.